please. I'd like to call to order the August 12th meeting of the Greenwood Advisory Plan Commission. First item of business is the approval of the minutes from July 22nd. Is there a motion?
I move to approve.
We have a motion from Mr. Lexi. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Price. All in favor, please show by raising a hand. All opposed? Are there any abstentions?
Me, I'm going to abstain since I was absent.
There are no special requests or continuances. There are no findings of fact. We'll get into old business. First item on the old business is PC 2024-012 Elmwood Estates 2 primary plat. Petitioner is Neil Garadia. Who do we have to speak on this tonight?
Excuse me, Mr. President, I do not see the petitioner. The petitioner has verbally communicated to me on the phone that they would be requesting a continuance. I have emailed the petitioner just now to see if they can join us online. It was my understanding that they were going to be at this meeting to make that request before you.
Having read through the technical review committee and everything, it appears that this topic is not really ready to come to the Plan Commission.
It is my opinion and staff's opinion that they are not ready because they do not have, they're not meeting our stormwater requirements. Currently, they are trying to place their stormwater off-site, but they do not have the proper agreements to place their stormwater outside of Greenwood city limits.
This is the Whiteland.
Correct. It's in Whiteland. They've been asked to draft a memorandum of understanding, and they've been asked to draft a interlocal agreement that the city would review and our legal department would make the final draft of. But since it was something that they were requesting to do, we had asked the petitioner to prepare those documents. They are not at a position, nor are they showing much of any progress to complete those.
Do you feel this is a project that, given proper attention, will move forward?
Yeah, I think if it was something that they dedicated time to and tried and were able to work through and show the city a draft and work on it and respond, that is something that could potentially be worked through. Up until this time, we really haven't, we saw the original draft of the interlocal agreement, which had a number of issues. I don't think we saw a memorandum of understanding. And then apparently they've worked on addressing some of our concerns and said they had something to send me last Friday. I don't believe I've received that from them. I was going to try to look at it before the meeting. And then Neil has just contacted me via email. He said he is having trouble logging in. I resent him our agenda that has the login information. So hopefully he'll be joining us soon. Otherwise, if he's not able to join us, it's up to the.
Well, if the commission would see see their way to having, extending this out in the continuance, what would you estimate would be a proper date? 26th is in 2 weeks.
Mr. Show,
Yes, sir.
I would point out, we originally heard this petition back in April or May,
I think it was May.
and they continued it twice since then. They've not made any substantial, in that time period.
Okay.
Isn't there a limit to the number of continuances they can request?
I thought it was 2. I don't think that is actually in our rules of procedure. I would say
They
that
show for cause, I suppose you could continue it again, but that would be in your discretion.
you get to a point where, at least I personally feel like a renotice may be appropriate, just since it's gone on for so long. If people wanted to have that project on their radar and you continued it 3-4 times, people may lose track of it. And
Well, if we had a motion for a continuance and it were voted down by at least 5 votes, that'd be the negative vote. That would be taking a step in one direction.
Recording in progress.
sorry, Mr. President, I was just checking to make sure our link worked. On the agenda, it works just fine. It looks like our petitioner has also joined us.
Mr. Gradia?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I'm sorry about that. I was using the wrong link to log in.
That's okay. This is John, I'm the president of the planning commission. We were just having a discussion about the Elmwood Estates 2 primary plat.
Yes.
And part of the concern is we've already had 2 continuances, and apparently not a whole lot has moved forward on this. I believe we have 2 options. One is to issue a continuance, and the other one is to turn down the continuance, and we kind of start over.
Mhm.
Renotification, adjacent properties, and so forth.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'd like to just explain what we have done in the last couple months. I understand there hasn't been a lot of progress made, and we've tried to basically make the agreements what they need to be in order for both municipalities to, agree on something that works for everybody. It hasn't been easy from our standpoint to kind of come up with these documents. We have an attorney that has been working with us, who's also part of the development team and our client that owns the land. And he's been, trying to draft these agreements so that all the proper language for detention and access are satisfactory to everybody. But, truth be told, we just haven't been able to get something that's satisfactory for everybody. And, I've reached out to, I think Gabe and we spoke late last week, and I think he had mentioned he was going to try and do a review of the latest documents that we sent. And I haven't seen anything yet from that review, but we're willing to do whatever it takes to make sure that, both municipalities agree on what's inside these documents. We just haven't really gotten the feedback that we need in order to kind of complete them. So I know that's not a great answer, but we've been trying to, button this up and come to some sort of closure on it.
It kind of sounds like there's enough work left to do on this that we may be better served to drop back and refile.
And I'm okay with that. It's just that I don't know how we can get the feedback we need in order to finalize the documents. It's just been, I don't know if we need to do an in-person meeting or what, but we do know that we need to meet Greenwood's stricter requirements. We're not trying to insert in language from Whiteland that we are gonna ask Greenwood to agree with, we're happy to draft it in a way that, you know, the stricter Greenwood requirements are part of the documents, but without, you know, without knowing exactly what that is or how that needs to be worded, it's hard for us to finalize these documents. So I'm okay if we need to, you know, if you guys feel like we need to extend it or refile, we can do that. I just, I'm trying to get a clear path forward on how to get to a final document.
Neil, when did you submit the documents to staff for review?
So the first time we submitted documents, it was, I want to say early June. And I can look that up and try and figure out exactly what date it was, but
For the most recent revisions?
the most recent ones were yeah, just a couple, you know, probably Thursday of last week, I think, which I understand that's not enough time for this plan commission meeting. And that's another reason why I spoke with Gabe on the phone about it, because I wasn't sure with it getting submitted so late, what, you know, what to do tonight. But there wasn't a lot of movement between the first submittal and the second. And that's where we lost a lot of time.
Mr. President, if I may say something, if I don't think maybe legal can correct me, I don't think proper action is to,
Don't continue, we have to vote on.
if you don't continue it, you would have to vote on it, either favorably or unfavorably. And if it is an unfavorable vote, because you find that it does not meet our stormwater requirements, I believe it is a 1-year period unless you unanimously approve to have them back ahead of that 1-year period.
I think we would look to your recommendation on that.
Again, Gabe, I'm happy to make the agreement what you guys want it to be. I just need to get the feedback to make the documents what they need to be. So I guess I would hope that everyone would consider that, and we're wanting to work together to get this done.
Neil, if you did want this to be continued, as I think you're requesting,
Mhm.
did you have a date that you felt you would want for a target continuance date?
I think if we could, yeah, afterwards, so I would suggest maybe a month from now, if you felt like we could set up some meetings after tonight to try and come to some sort of cadence with what needs to be in the agreements and how we can get them buttoned up. But I wanted to request from you what, you know, what you thought was an amount of time that you guys think you can review the document and get to a place that you're comfortable with. Do you feel like a month is enough time if for everyone to review that, or do you feel like you need more time than that? I think
Likely there'd be more time. I think maybe the stormwater planning and engineering could review it within the month time period. But
Okay.
these documents will need to be in our legal team's format, and it will need to be compliant with our legal team's desires and review. And just with us working with both planning, engineering, stormwater, and our legal department, and also the city of Whiteland and their outside consultant, I don't think a month would be enough time. And just with it already being continued a few times, I would hate to come back before plan commission with it still not completed.
Mhm. Do you think you would be able to redline or have someone from your legal team redline it so that we can make it exactly how you want it to be? Or, because my fear is if we just keep iterating through based on what we think you need to see and we're wrong, then it's kind of like an endless cycle of, and I don't want to waste your time. You know, I'm just trying to make sure we create a document that you are able to approve.
Mr. Garadia,
Yeah,
this is your agreement that you need to put together. It will not be the city's pond or Whiteland's pond. So it's appropriate for you to put the agreement together, and we will review it as quickly as possible and give feedback timely. But please understand, this is subject to the common council approval. An interlocal agreement is approved by the legislative body. And this commission can approve something with conditions, but we cannot guarantee that the legislative body would be on board with doing the interlocal agreement.
I understand.
Mr. Nelson?
I'm just gonna ask Kate how he felt about October 14th.
I think October 14th would be a more realistic time.
Well, that, or do you want to come back and ask for a recommendation of, if we were to turn it down, recommendation to secure it within the year, whenever it happens to be ready?
I guess I'd leave that to you to determine. If they were to go forward right now, I would not be recommending a favorable recommendation. If this was in place, I would be more comfortable with it. As long as it's meeting our subdivision requirements, our stormwater technical manual, we should approve it. Right now, it is not. Depends on whether you would like to take that route. I am just reading through our rules of procedure to make sure I got that 1 year timeline down correctly.
I believe that to be correct.
And that can be waived.
It can be waived with a unanimous consent of the plan commission.
I guess I'm inclined to continue it one more time.
Neil, I have another question for you.
Yes.
What sort of headway, or where is the town of Whiteland at on this? What can you update us on that?
Yeah, we received communication from Carmen basically saying that, we need to abide by the stricter Greenwood requirements for stormwater and access. And so she was pretty much deferring to the city of Greenwood. And that's kind of the gist of what she had said. So while she did agree that she would review the documents, she didn't have any conditions in addition to, what the city of Greenwood would require.
Any other questions or comments, or?
And I'm assuming this gentleman knows what our requirements are.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're published.
All right. So it's pretty simple.
The bigger issue is this project, this development would be on Greenwood's southern border with the town of Whiteland. And they want to build a pond in Whiteland to serve for the detention and stormwater requirements for a subdivision in Greenwood. And so technically, without this waiver, this subdivision does not have any detention. It doesn't have any detention on site. It's off-site detention. That's the bigger issue. They can build the pond to meet our stormwater requirements. It's just not.
We have
on
no
their property
jurisdiction.
or even within our jurisdiction. So we want to make sure the pond is built and maintained in perpetuity to our standards.
Absolutely.
Correct.
So just a update on our rules of procedure. For an adverse decision, it says a petition for a zone map change or annexation or to amend or abolish written commitments by which has been decided against the petitioner shall not again be placed on docket for consideration by the commission within a period of 1 year from the date of the decision previously rendered, unless it's upon a motion. It did not mention a primary plat. We do have in Article 6.01, we do have, the plan commission may dismiss a case for prosecution or for lack of jurisdiction. So if you were to dismiss it, I believe it could come back if it, wanted to.
A refile.
A refile before the year, but it does give you the ability to dismiss a case for the lack of jurisdiction, which, right now, without these agreements in place, the pond that is being shown is not necessarily in our jurisdiction, and the part that is in our jurisdiction is not meeting our stormwater requirements. So the plat that they're requesting is in our jurisdiction, the stormwater is not. I'm not sure if that necessarily meets that, but just so we're advised on what our rules of procedures states, I think there could be an argument that it could come back sooner. However, I'm comfortable with David Pletsky's proposed date.
The other issue beyond the pond is access, correct? They're not showing direct access onto Emerson Avenue. They're connecting through other subdivisions, one of which is in the town of Whiteland and has not yet been constructed, or my understanding is even filed for construction down in Whiteland. So without that access point, you need a second means of access off of Emerson Avenue to be fired up, which is something else that needs to be outlined in these agreements.
Correct. And we have that in one of the agreements, the MOU.
And do you have an update on the town of Whiteland project to the south of you?
There hasn't been much movement there, to be honest. We've mainly been focused on this Elmwood Estates expansion, but I know the property owner has expressed the desire to develop the property as he lives in the home just south of this parcel. So he wants to see that get developed. And some of the conversation has been around having access to sewer. That's been a challenge for not just this parcel, but also the parcels across the street on the west side of Emerson. And so some of that delay is due to the uncertainty of the sewer access.
And it's the same property owner for the parcels in Greenwood and Whiteland, correct?
Correct.
Is there a reason that the property owner is not annexing into Greenwood to use our sewer utility, which would solve the problem with the pond not being in Greenwood?
I think that was discussed before Apollo was involved, and I'm not sure if there was a reason for not doing it that way. I think, Gabe, were you a part of those conversations early on?
Yeah, I think it came down to not wanting to do Greenwood's road improvements, but I believe that Whiteland has now adopted the same requirements that Greenwood has, so I don't know if that reason is valid anymore, or if the property owner is aware of that.
Okay.
So in reality, we need to decide if we want to dismiss this or to continue.
Or deny it?
Well, deny it is,
I think a denial and dismissal are two different things.
oh,
What do you see us looking at?
The way that wording is said, the dismissal is we're dismissing for jurisdiction, so it's a no decision, is how I'm.
Yeah, the denial is.
A denial.
State law.
Plat is in front of you. If it doesn't meet the requirements, you can deny it, but you have to set forth what it doesn't meet. The specific requirements of the UDO that it does not meet, the standards that it doesn't meet.
someone make a motion, we may need Gabe to help us fill that blank in. Mr. Nelson. there a motion?
On the tech review committee, I mean, Gabe helped me with this wording. The unfavorable recommendation from it is because it's not compliant with stormwater improvement, street name, streetlights, trail, the memorandum of understanding and the interlocal agreement. That's part of it.
Yes, that's not necessarily, an exact section. I believe the stormwater section is section 10-06-19. We're looking at the trail system. That I can confirm, but the sidewalks is 10-06-09, trail is 10-06-10. You said the trail system, the stormwater, and
So that means,
That's in there too, yeah.
ingress egress was a concern of the fire marshal.
This just needs to be renoticed. It's fine,
if you continue it,
we can,
if
but
that's what you choose to
You
do.
can have them renotice
Could be a condition of the
with a continuing, yeah.
I'm open to several of the options, but right now it's not compliant. So,
Did Mr. Leskey have a motion on the floor?
No.
He has
Yeah.
he suggested a date.
He suggested a
There's
date, there was no
motion on the
motion
floor.
made.
Okay, pardon me.
what was that, just for refresher?
10-14.
I'm open to. comment.
Well, let's make a motion and see how it runs.
Somebody,
Somebody?
I'll move to continue this to the October 14th meeting.
Motion made by Mr. Lexi, second by Mr. St. John. We continue 2024-012 Elmwood Estates 2 primary plat to October 14th.
Question on the motion. We had talked about there being a renotice. Is that a condition of the motion, or is there an amendment to the motion to include that?
Straightforward motion to continue.
Okay. Okay, any other questions about the motion or anything? Seeing none. All those in favor of continuing this to October 14th, please show by raising a hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion fails 3-3.
4.
4-3?
3-4.
3-4, I'm sorry, I missed a hand. It does take 5. Because we are a board of 9.
So there's an alternative motion. It's to be official action and has to have at least 5 votes.
Let's try the next. I'll move to continue this to the October 14th meeting with the condition that petitioner fulfill the notice requirements again.
I'll second that.
This was made again by Mr. Lexi. And Mr. Probst.
question for staff, is October 14th sufficient time to make public notices?
Yes, yes, it would be.
Okay, so we have a motion again on PC 2024-012 Elmwood Estates to primary plat to continue to October 14th, requiring notice. We need a proper notice be made to the subject properties. All those in favor, please show by raising a hand. All opposed, same sign. 3 to 4 again. Is there another motion someone would like to make?
I move that we dismiss it due to lack of jurisdiction.
Second.
Thus, it would allow it to come back without 1-year penalty.
Motion by Mr. King. Second by Mr. Milborn. Any questions about this?
I guess,
Yes. Ms. Coates?
my question, which is probably for legal, the primary plat is in the city. of
Yeah,
Greenwood.
you have the land, the territory is located within your jurisdiction. As far as I'm going, is this really a jurisdictional issue? Because the land that is the subject of the primary plat is within
Is
your
within.
planning and zoning jurisdiction.
It's just a non-compliant plat.
The
Just
stormwater,
doesn't comply with the requirements of the subdivision standards.
the stormwater that they're proposing can meet the standards is out of our jurisdiction, so I just wasn't sure how that works.
We can amend it.
Would you like to amend your motion?
I think
You
it's,
can amend a motion, we haven't
You
voted.
I
can,
think
but what's he going to amend it to?
the dismissal is probably not appropriate.
I think we're doing this in very tall grass. I'm gonna withdraw that. I'm gonna withdraw the motion.
You withdraw the second.
I have a question. If it's out of our jurisdiction, it's in the town of Whiteland. If it fails, what's the recourse then?
They could come back with a new proposed subdivision that included a detention within that subdivision within Greenwood, which would lead to less lots within their subdivision.
And it failing has no real effect on Whiteland. They just go, okay.
Correct, that's all, completely same property owner, but it's a different
Applies to
development.
different jurisdictions. If it fails, then had been.
Well, I guess now, yeah, like Mr. St. John said, if it fails, they have to come back with a plat that is entirely in the city with stormwater that's compliant with our.
Or alternatively, they could, maybe have all their ducks in a row when they refile.
Yeah.
Just the agreements lined up.
The proper motion is a motion to deny the plat, right?
I would say.
Well, do we have to hang our hat on every single element that the of non-compliance with the UDO, or do we
You
just
have
pick
to
one?
specifically set forth those provisions of the subdivision standards that
them?
it does not meet, yes, and then they have the opportunity to amend and refile
Okay.
and bring it back before you, so you have to place them on notice what they have
If
not
we leave
done.
some off, they don't have to address that.
That's terrible, because this one's so lacking that.
It's a long list, it's a laundry list.
Sean, could they not just cite the subdivision?
The sections would be
Section.
best, you have not met section, say
Yeah.
what it is, if you have that laundry list.
I'm just thinking with the number of things that they're not compliant with. It could possibly just be the subdivision division, not necessarily the subsection.
You have to say what specific portions of the subdivision standards they have not met.
We can do that. I'm just gonna help with the.
I think Mr. Nelson could help.
I guess, I don't necessarily have them listed, this specific section, I could look at the sections. Is there any repercussion if I were to miss a section that they're not compliant in?
Not after the rest of that, right?
Well, are we back to continuing this so that Gabe can go through the, so that Gabe can go through the UDO with a fine tooth comb and list all the sections for the next meeting?
Sounds good. Maybe. Just making sure we give her-
In which case we would be looking to continue
just the next meeting for that.
Yes, it's to August 26th.
So it's the duty of the plan commission, this is the case law, to furnish the developer with specific and concrete reasons for disapproval of the plat so that the developer can amend its plat so as to comply with applicable ordinances, which is why I was advising, if you are inclined to deny it, please set forth those specific portions of the subdivision standards that the developer hasn't met, the applicant has not met.
Seems reasonable that we give Mr. Nelson a couple of weeks
Yeah,
to come up with a proper list.
like that.
I would appreciate that, I just don't want to miss one. I know we have a planning comment letter that would probably help me quickly identify a lot of the planning sections, but I do want to make sure I'm not overlooking any of the stormwater requirements or other areas where.
Mr. Jones
maybe
can probably
not.
help you with that. Yes. Is there a motion?
I move to continue this to the August 26th meeting.
Second,
Who won that? Grace.
Mr. Price.
Mr. Price. Move to August 26th. Mr. Lexi. Seconded by Mr. Price. All in favor, please show by raising a hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 6-0. Thank you, everybody. Next item on the agenda for full business is PC 2024-018 Jiffy Lube. The petitioner is Mr. Andrew Marcosi. Did I say that right?
Barcosi.
Barcosi, I apologize.
Half my family's Barcosi, the other half's Barcosi.
Well, we have the Barcosi site here, so.
All right. It's Andrew Barcosi with Barcosi Surveying. Jimmy Lou here, it's the one right at Fairview at 135. We're working on trying to add an additional bay to their two bays that they've got there, just kind of do a little more expansion to it. They've already got a couple variances for the buildings, architectural variances. We were actually in front of you 2 weeks ago, last meeting, and for the additional buffer that's required on arterials and roads. And we actually had this one on the agenda as well, but we decided to continue it because we could work with staff a little bit better to see if we could possibly meet it or if we were still going to require the waiver after some discussions. We feel it's still necessary to, if this waiver required, staff doesn't necessarily agree. We have added and discussed about putting, they said we could possibly go down to a 5-foot sidewalk. And then with the ordinances, we can actually do a 3-foot perimeter parking buffer. So we've got a new drawing where we show a 3-foot there and then a 5-foot walk. This gave us a little bit more, not enough space. So we did a turning radius for the kind of larger vehicles that Jiffy Lube would be kind of working on and everything. And I think that's in your guys' packets now. And as you can see, it's kind of hard to see because it shows all the different turns of the truck or the vehicle. But it would actually ramp up into about halfway up into the sidewalk, showing we really just don't have space for that vehicle to make that turn where they currently do have all that space because it's all asphalt right there. So they suggest maybe doing a roll curb, which would allow the larger vehicles to kind of ramp up onto the sidewalk. Problem with the roll curb is it cuts another 2 feet out of the normal drive lane. So more vehicles, I believe, would end up ramping up onto the sidewalk. This also creates kind of a, I know they're going slow out of the garage, but this does create an issue if someone is walking and someone's coming out of the garage at the same time. You do kind of have that pedestrian car interaction. The other issues we're having is NDOT's not really wanting us to put it in there right away. They've stated the terrain inside the right of way drops pretty steeply, so we require retaining walls. There's utility easements in there. They prefer just the waiver itself. So we are trying to make it work and try to see what we can do with you guys. The other issue is that it dead end into the crew car wash drive lane that comes right off of 135. So people actually come right off of 135 and straight down this drive lane. If you're walking on the sidewalk, you walk right up into that drive lane. As you know, walking on sidewalks, people aren't going to walk in the grass. They're going to probably walk in that drive lane, which creates more of an issue with pedestrians meeting in with vehicles, which we just don't want to be safe there, or unsafe. The sidewalks to the south, there are some along the Kroger and the Kroger gas station there that they don't even extend to the intersection. They've got a little cul-de-sac sidewalk they've created. So even if there was a sidewalk on the other side south, you still have to cross the intersection through grass and hills, and it's still making an unsafe turn. There's not a pedestrian crossway there. We just feel offering the sidewalk is just not in the right place at the time. We think that NDOT, how they do their sidewalk expansions, this would be better for them to come in. The only way Jiffy Lube, or the only way Crew Car Wash is ever gonna get a sidewalk across theirs is if NDOT does it. They're curving along that drive, it's right along the right of way. They can't actually really just don't have any space at all for a sidewalk. It's all NDOT. So that's where that is. We are still gonna offer and do the sidewalk along Fairview, which makes it, gives you connections back to the west there where there are residential subdivisions. It gives you access to the interior drive that walks into LA Fitness and Ella's Ice Cream, and those kind of things over there, rather than walking up a interstate. We'll also have a sidewalk from this sidewalk to the building at least as well, because that's part of agreement ordinance as well. We just feel the sidewalk out front along 135 it's just, if we could put it in dot, we would, but it's just not allowable. It's not able to do here. We've got quite a different issues that kind of create a problem here. Trying to keep, obviously, if we whole new site, we can just move the building back, cover the building is where it is. So kind of our issues there. If you have any questions or anything like that, more than happy to answer them.
Couple questions. In the application packet, there was a AutoCAD turning. What was your design vehicle used?
Yeah, that's a straight off NDOT. I cannot remember the template off the top of my head. It was one of the smaller ones they had. It wasn't even the large ones.
Was it box truck, articulated truck?
It was like a box. Well, it's one of those the vehicles that they're working on a lot of those Amazon. What's called Ford Trans. Yeah, right. Those are the vehicles that they kind of work on. They kind of deal with Amazon to kind of work on those. So that's about the largest vehicle that they're allowed to hold in them do. So
What do these vehicles currently do out of the existing bays? There's enough pavement out the sidewalk.
Yeah, the pavement actually existing goes out into right away. We're actually part of the proposal is actually removing all that out of there.
Okay. And then on the proposed building addition, you could offset the building addition from the existing building to buy more space, like shift the addition to the west, buy more space for a vehicle to turn in and out.
Yeah, I had to discuss it, but potentially kind of wanted to clean the standard look that they've already got on all their other buildings.
And then alternatively, could they reverse the direction vehicles enter the bays?
That I never discussed. Again, you're still have the same problem. I mean, whether you're going turning in, turning out, you're still gonna have to, go wider on the turn. So you have to ramp up onto the sidewalk and come into the drive to make that sharp turn.
And then I guess this is just for the attention of the commission. If you haven't read it within the packet itself, the email from NDOT says, after speaking with our special projects engineer, it is determined that it would be preferred if you were to ask for a waiver to the city first. Using the owner's property is preferred, but NDOT does allow sidewalks in the right of way if there isn't another option. From reviewing the plans, it looks like you have another option. NDOT's engineering concern on placing the sidewalk in the right of way is that you would need to put in retaining walls to deal with the change in elevation. So it wasn't a no from NDOT, it was seek a waiver from the city first. Which if we deny the waiver, then to me, it sounds like NDOT very well may allow for sidewalk.
I drove the 135, there's missing pieces of the sidewalk on the west side, and those are all located in places that putting a sidewalk is pretty kind of difficult. We did not entertain a sidewalk within the right of way rather than trying to put it outside.
They
Those
have,
missing-
they're doing,
missing
they're
pieces.
doing it in Franklin, they're building a trail down in Franklin, they're doing it up in, Marion County along County Line Road, US 31 north of County Line Road. They did it on 135 down by the Target just this last summer, so, they have, I'm not sure why we routinely hear from the NDOT permits review managers that we don't want sidewalk within our right of way when the district itself routinely puts sidewalk within the right of way. It's always struck me as an odd conflict within NDOT, that we often hear that. I personally don't like the argument that, there's missing pieces there, it's too hard to put in, or it doesn't connect anywhere, so we don't build it now, that it'll never connect anywhere, we have to build it while we have the opportunity, is my opinion.
Yeah, just up on the screen here, I've shown a graphic showing the yellow highlights. We're looking on the west side. Yellow is where there is sidewalk. As you can see, the Kroger site goes through the gas station, as Andrew had mentioned. There is a portion that goes into the grass. The sidewalk ends there. Then you have the petitioner's site, who will be, it's already putting in the Fairview Road sidewalk. You have the crew car wash that you mentioned, and then, or I'm sorry, north of it, then you have sidewalks for a good stretch. I will say that as someone who frequently drives on up and down this road on 135, I do see people walking inside of the road, in the gutter, on the grass strips. I would think that if I was someone who was either getting my exercise, commuting to work, etc., on 135, I would appreciate every chance I got to walk on the sidewalk. So there may be gaps, and there are gaps now, but I think every section of sidewalk we get is a safer place for someone to be walking. And I know it's not ideal. We don't live in a perfect world. A lot of times coming back and trying to retrofit things when we have the chance. But that is why staff feels that this should be denied. We understand that there really are some peculiar things with the site, with NDOT, and with the space constraints. But we would, as Mark mentioned, we would like to see if this can be placed in NDOT right of way, and possibly eliminating this option, I think, gives us a chance that NDOT would reassess.
And in our history, we've had numerous times where we've had little short stretches of sidewalks that have been called ridiculous. And as time moves on, the sidewalks are interconnected and we end up with a continuous sidewalk.
Yes, yeah, that's little by little, hopefully we can get there.
Any other questions or comments? Well, the example he cited in front of Target actually had a small, narrow sidewalk. And NDOT came along and decided they were gonna retrofit it to a trail, so it does spur NDOT along to
Take away your options.
yeah.
Is there a motion?
You know, I have a question. I mean, if you guys do deny the waiver and then I go back to NDOT and NDOT does deny me the sidewalk, do I come back for another waiver? Because on the sidewalk will not work on site.
Now, based on our last petition, I did read through it. I did not see a 1-year waiting period. So I guess you could likely come back with new information for us to consider.
But tell them we look stern.
I will say, to speak on about the sidewalks in NDOT right away, this is a new thing for them. I expected to get when I wrote them that, no, we do not want it. We've done several projects where they're like, no, get your sidewalk out of here. But this took me surprised that they are more open to it. However, they were still pretty questionable about this one, so we can attempt to bring it back to them and see what they say, but we might be back.
Is there a motion?
I move that the request of SCS Construction Services for a waiver from the Unified Development Ordinance, Chapter 10, Article 25, Division 6, subdivisions, Section 10-06-09, sidewalks, A, which requires a 6-foot sidewalk in and along commercial subdivisions to permit no sidewalk on the subject property along State Road 135 due to site constraints, since the sidewalk would be in state right of way and the state is not supportive of locating it there, and there isn't adequate space left to locate the sidewalk on the property, and provide for safe vehicle ingress, egress, and required landscaping, be denied, and that the plan commission find that the applicant has not met the criteria set forth by Greenwood Municipal Code Section 10-04-03K for the approval of this waiver.
We have a motion by Mr. King. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Milborn. Any other questions or discussion before we vote? Seeing none, all in favor of denying this petition, please show by raising a hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion to deny carries 7-0.
When thinking out loud here, if NDOT is not okay with the sidewalk or there's grading challenges, would they be comfortable, or would you be willing to ask them if some of the 3-foot landscaping strip could be located in NDOT right of way, which would give you 3 extra feet for the sidewalk?
Sure, okay, yeah, I can definitely, yeah, we definitely need, right, as I brought up, I thought about trying to get the landscaping waived as well, if we wanted the sidewalk that bad.
Yeah, I think we have some options here, whether or not we want a sidewalk and no landscaping, or if we want landscaping, and the sidewalk to be located in right of way, or if NDOT is amenable to plantings being in right of way. If the grading is too difficult for the sidewalk, that I'll have to get out on site and look at the grading too myself, but appreciate this, and I'm sure we'll see.
Yes, take care, have a good one.
Thank you for your efforts. Is there any old business from the floor? Seeing none, is there any new business? Seeing none, is there any new business from the floor? Seeing none, announcements.
No announcements at this time. I know the comprehensive plan is moving. We're working with HWC. We've got quite a bit of feedback, so we're taking some time to look at that feedback right now. I would assume that we'll likely have our public hearing, the first meeting in September. That's not a firm date. No one told me to that, but that is what we're targeting right now for the public hearing. Otherwise,
The first one?
the first meeting in September would be
Number 9.
But other than that, no announcements from staff.
You notice I did look directly at you when I first asked if there were any announcements.
On that note, I will announce that I will not be at the September 9th meeting, either by Zoom or in person. Have fun.
It's September 9th.
Yeah.
In 2 meetings.
Correct.
Okay, and I will be out of town on the 26th in 2 weeks. And I'll be out of the country in 4 weeks for the September 9th meeting. So we would need to suspend for the 26th.
And
Are
And
you going to participate
I
remotely?
plan on coming on
Okay.
electronically.
So do we- I'll wait for this one. We have a motion to suspend the rules of procedure to allow the vice president to preside if you should attend the meeting remotely on the 26th.
say, do we have a motion?
Yes.
Yes, we need a motion.
So moved.
By Mr.
Second.
Lexi. Second by Mr. Milborn. To suspend the rules and allow Mr. King to sit in,
To preside
to
over the
preside
meeting,
over the meeting,
and the
even
meeting
though
you
I'm
are
attending
attending remotely.
remotely. All in favor, please show a hand. All opposed, same sign, 7-0. And I assume that was just for the first one. We have to do a second one. Is there another motion for September 9th?
Paul, you said you won't be participating in that.
No, I will be participating.
Oh,
I
from,
plan on participating in
Okay.
both.
Okay, I misunderstood.
Yeah, I did too.
Oh.
Thought that you weren't going to be here at all, so you
I'll
didn't
be
have
out
to
of the
worry.
country, but I'll have
Okay,
my trusty laptop with me.
all right, well, I'm glad we all heard it differently.
I'm not saying I said it right.
I'll make the same motion for September 9th.
Motion by Mr. Lexi. Second by Mr. Milborn. All in favor, please show a sign by, please raise your hand. Thank you. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
In light of these motions and out of not attending the meetings, are there any other people that are not attending the September 9th or the 26th, this next meeting? Just as we're still talking with our consultant on the comprehensive plan, I want to make sure that we have a quorum and
We don't know about Ms. Stambaugh or Mr. Walker.
I'm here. I'll be here. for you.
The only danger would therefore, well, no, we would still have a quorum, even on the night that Mr. Lexi is unavailable, should those two not be able to make it. We would still have 6. Okay,
And 5 have to be here.
no 6.
So far,
Is it just 5?
it's fine, you're a 9-member board.
5 have to be.
thank you. We don't have a set date yet. We'll send out the proper public notice for it, but as we're looking at dates, it's helpful to know. Thank you.
Okay, any other announcements? Not, I'll accept one more motion.
Move to adjourn?